Hello and welcome to Kent for the second meeting of the 2014 season in the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship at Brands Hatch. Matt Palmer was the winner of the opening 2 rounds at Donington Park a month ago, but he returns to the scene of his disastrous start to the 2013 Championship. Will the Roadster drivers Stuart Nichols and Jim Davis on the podium at Donington be able to beat him today? We'll find out shortly. Patrick Mortell's here with me at Brands Hatch for the latest round of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. And Patrick, Brands Hatch is a circuit with a little bit of history for the championship.
Yeah, it's a very, very tight circuit, very short as well, so it's unusual to find cars going around on their own. There's always somebody there to race. And the conditions today are changeable, I think, at best. Heavy rain this morning, bright sunshine now. You actually see the steam coming off the circuit, so I think it's really going to provide the drivers with a challenge.
Yeah, what does that mean for the drivers, really? I guess the unpredictable nature of the weather today means they won't know which way to go in terms of setting their cars up.
Yeah, I think most people at the moment are opting for a wet setup. We think it's going to dry out, but we're not entirely sure how much, and we've not got long to go now until qualifying. Different things for different cars, though. The Mark 2s and the Mark 3s. The 3s tend to fare better in the wet. They've got a limited slip differential, slightly less torque and skinnier tyres. Tends to favour them, I think.
Okay, any tips for a winner? Is it going to be Matt Palmer in the Mark 2 this weekend, or one of the Roadsters going to pip him to the post?
Well, I suspect Matt Palmer's probably going to be there or thereabouts, but I know the 2 guys, Jim and Stuart in the Roadsters, are going to give him a run for his money, I think.
Gary Skipper, a newcomer to MR2 racing this season, but I gather that your background is in quite a different form of motorsport.
That's right, yeah. I've been racing slot cars. Most people know that as Scalextric since I was 15. I run my own 24-hour race as well because I'm a huge Le Mans fan. So we've been doing that for 3 years, since 2012. We have 16 teams from all over Europe come and race on our 200-foot digital Le Mans replica circuit.
Okay, so for you, I guess this is something of a departure. You're scaling up somewhat to real cars, if you like, and the MR2. Why particularly the MR2 Championship?
That's right. When I decided that it was time for me to go racing, something that I've always wanted to do, but now I've been able to put together the budget. I looked at a few different series. The MR2 with its big grids, saw the footage on YouTube, the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. Looked like the kind of thing I wanted to do, driving a proper sports car as well, rather than as a smaller domestic-based car. So again, being a sports car fan, fitted the bill perfectly.
And you had your first race weekend at Donington Park a few weeks ago?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was great fun. Qualified pretty well, 18th, so top half of the grid. Large grid there, a 38. Had a couple of spins in my first race, being a novice, but kept it calm in the second one and finished where I started. And here at Brands Hatch today, we've got changeable weather conditions. Are you looking for wet or dry? I'm hoping for dry, but we'll see how it pans out. Had a couple of laps in the wet on Friday and it was extremely slippery, so I've just got to make sure I keep it under control if it does decide to rain. Graham Mailings is with me. Graham, another newcomer to the MR2 Championship this year, but I understand your background's in stock car racing.
Yeah, I spent 12 years in stock cars. Look for a time for a change, something different.
And so, having made that decision to change, why did you get involved in the MR2s in particular?
I have a good work colleague, Martin Farry, raced. Was getting slightly disillusioned with the stock cars. Speaking of work over the desk, obviously in break time, and yeah, it was time for a change, and Martin convinced me to come along and have a meeting, or come to watch, and yeah, I was taken by it. It was a good crowd of people, relatively competitive on a cost-wise, so yeah, it was time for a change, and relatively easy to maintain as well.
So you've had one race meeting already, that was at Donington Park, second one here at Brands Hatch. How did Donington go?
Well, fluffed the start on the first one, was trying to get the revs right, was looking at the rev counter instead of the flags and or the lights, and by the time the lights had changed, they'd all gone around me and I was stood still. So not so good in the first one. I think we started I think 30th, finished 28th. Second race a lot better, made a better start. Still playing at the back of the field. It's very different from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I'm used to racing with a limited slip differential on the rear wheel drive car, and you power out the corner. These have a very pendulum effect, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty scared of the effect they're having at the moment. So yeah, it takes some getting used to.
So maybe a few more race meetings and you'll just start to feel a bit more comfortable in the car.
Yeah, I hope this one stays dry. It's looking unlikely, Yeah, just that rear wheel drive element without the limited slip is totally alien to me, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, a few more meetings, hopefully we'll get up to speed.
The car's being released out onto the circuit for the first of 2 races today on this Brands Hatch Indy layout, and it's not Matt Palmer on pole position. He was pipped by Mick Nichols, the margin just 5/100ths of a second. Stuart Nichols and Jim Davis will line up on the second row of the grid, making it 3 roadsters in the top 4. Matthew Wallace and Ben Rowe are on the third row. Robert Wells and Michael Wells complete the top 8. 31 cars lining up then for round 3 of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. Circuit is dry, the weather fine at the moment. Red lights go on. Who's going to make the best of the starts? Mick Nichols getting a little bit sideways there as he puts the power down from pole position. It's a good start by Jim Davis from the outside of the second row of the grid in the red roadster. He was getting alongside Matt Palmer there. We're on board with Tim Herron, who started on row 6 of the grid. It's very congested up ahead. That's a moment for number 28, Christian White, so he's going to lose a little bit of ground. And it's now John Wilson in the number 77 car up ahead of us, but Matt Palmer has already made up a place, I think. He's back up to second position now, level pegging with Stuart Nichols as they make their way down towards Graham Hill Bend for the first time in this 13-minute plus 1 lap race. And look, in the background there you can see the red roadster of Jim Davis and the blue roadster of Stuart Nichols more or less side by side, but Mick Nichols it is with a few car lengths lead over Matt Palmer as they head in towards Surtees for the first time in a 13-minute plus 1 lap race. Mick Nichols then, the father of Stuart Nichols, who was second to Matt Palmer in the championship last season. Mick himself finished 15th in the end. He'll be pleased with his qualifying performance here at Brands Hatch today, but he'll know he's got a lot of work to do to try and keep Matt Palmer behind him as the field flashed over the line at the end of lap 1. An excellent grid of MR2s having been assembled here. That's Robert Wells going past Matthew Wallace, and Michael Wells doing the same around the outside line at Paddock Hill Bend, climbing up towards Druids now, and he's made that move stick. The Welleses, of course, started on row 4 of the grid. Matthew Wallace started on row 3, so he's dropping back a little bit. And there's number 85, Nigel Ralphson, just up ahead of us. We're on board with John Wilson, and Ralphson started the race in 10th position. The man who started racing in 2010 in the Fiat Championship. Bit of a mistake there, a squirm, possibly a little bit of contact, and I think Ralphson's going to lose out to John Wilson there. Or there might be, well, there certainly is contact there. So that's Ralphson spinning, and Ben Rowe and John Wilson all over the grass. Now, how are they going to rejoin? That could be a little bit chaotic there as they resume the track. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Jim Davis in third place has pulled away from Stuart Nichols. Let's have another look at this incident up at Surtees, so you can see contact between Ralphson and Wilson. Ben Rowe was trying to go off in avoidance. This was the view from Tim Herron, and he and Mark Barber in the 22 car had to go either side of the spinning car as it rejoined the circuit. Here's the view from Martin Farrelly in number 24. What kind of a view did he get? Well, he got Ben Rowe broadside across the track in front of him when he arrived. He was able to go to the right-hand side of the circuit. You saw as well number 21, Phil Hutchins, as well. There you can see quite clearly the contact between the two of them. It turned John Wilson round. Ben Rowe was very much in the way. Quick reactions from Mark Barber in the Library Plus backed car ensured that there was no damage to either of those machines. And this is what John Wilson saw when he felt the touch. He was spun around over the grass. Goes him and Nigel Ralphson. John Wilson, a front runner in the championship last year, of course. He was a championship contender almost to the end, but he loses quite a bit of ground there. Sean Traynor we could see going through as well in the number 27 car, the 43-year-old from Winchester. But for the lead of the race, it's side by side now, coming down from Druids, looking back from Mick Nichols, but he's lost the lead, I think, to Matt Palmer, and he might lose second place as well to Jim Davis at Graham Hill Bend, but for the moment he can repel that particular advance. As we go on board now with Martin Farrelly, going wheel to wheel with Phil Hutchins there, down towards the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. So you see the drivers, well, generally speaking, taking a much tighter line through Graham Hill Bend these days. They can't now run out over the curbs, or over the edge of the curbs on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, because they'll be penalised if they do so. Matt Palmer then has taken the lead of the race. It's still Mick Nichols in second place. Stuart Nichols now trying to go around the outside of Jim Davis for third position at Paddock Hill Bend. Is he going to make this work? The cars are still more or less alongside one another, but no, Jim Davis just about holds on. And look at this, Robert Wells with a fine turn of speed there is going to attack both of them now. He's in fifth place in the number 45 car. Qualified well at Donington, did Robert Wells, but the results didn't necessarily bear that out. We see now the number 71 car of Graham Mailings, the driver that's come over from Short Oval Racing. He's doing battle with number 42, which is Chris Franklin from Romford. Here comes the battle towards the bottom end of the top 10, featuring Mark Barber and Alex Knight making their way into Surtees. We go on board with John Wilson, a couple of cars behind them. He's trying to recover some of that lost ground, and there's contact there as he tries to go up the inside of Sean Traynor. And John Wilson, I'm afraid, spins around in the Hennessy Motorsport prepared car. And he's now got a load more places to have to make up. Let's have another look at that then from on board with Tim Heron, who was just behind John here. You can already see bits flapping off his car. Goes up the inside of Sean Traynor, the gap disappears, a little bit of contact, and it's just enough to turn John Wilson around. Coming up to half distance in round 3 of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship, and you can see there that Matt Palmer had built up quite a decent lead. We're on board with Rob Wells then. He's in 5th position at the moment, chasing after those 3 Roadsters ahead of him. Robert Wells in this Hennessy Motorsport prepared Mark II car, the cars that are a bit heavier but a bit more powerful than the Mark III Roadsters. Meanwhile, Jim Davis up ahead is trying to get 2nd place away from Mick Nichols, who started this race on pole position. And Mick's son Stuart Nichols is joining in as well, making their way down towards Paddock Hill Bend as we go back to look at this scrap that features Tim Heron amongst the number, and there you can see Sean Traynor as well in the number 27 car, which is the white car with the blue stripe down the middle of it, in his first season of racing in the car mechanicked by Lee Hall. There you can see number 24, which is Martin Farrelly, doing battle with number 80 David Asbury. More here with Mick Nichols, and Jim Davis is at Surtees and he's through on the inside, is he? Has he got that move done? Yes, he has. So Jim Davis does go up to 2nd place. He's got a lot of work to do to try and catch the leader though, and look at this, because really it's now 5 cars for 2nd position. You've got Jim Davis, Mick Nichols, Stuart Nichols, Robert Wells and Michael Wells completing the top 6. A slower car just up ahead of them as well, and now Mick Nichols is going to lose 3rd place possibly, because Stuart Nichols is attacking him around the outside into Paddock Hill Bend, but no, he couldn't make that work. I'm sure Stuart will be keen to get ahead of his father just as soon as he can. We're looking on board the rear view camera from Mick Nichols' car. We can see that Stuart Nichols still not through as they lap the number 23 car of Bill Schwartz, the 30-year-old HGV driver from Leyland in Lancashire. But look at the size of Matt Palmer's lead now. It's half the length of the bottom straight really. Jim Davis there in 2nd position. It is still Mick Nichols 3rd and Stuart Nichols in 4th place. Robert Wells has got to try and negotiate that Schwartz car now, which had a fire in the previous round of the championship at Donington Park. Good to see Bill back out though for this weekend's racing. Robert Wells is going to get through, but I think it has cost him a 2nd or so to the 3 Roadsters battling up ahead, so he's got a lot of work to do now to latch himself back onto the rear of those 3 cars disputing 2nd position. Yellow flags there as well up at Paddock Hill Bend. I think that's the car of Andrew Franklin that has been pushed off. Michael Wells then, who was a regular visitor to the podium during the course of last season, on his way to 4th in the championship. Behind Robert at the moment. The cars now make their way along the bottom straight towards Surtees. Very nicely turned out cars with distinctive liveries, and white and green for Robert, and the mainly lime green with black of Michael Wells, turning their way out of the right-hander at Clearways and Clark Curve onto the top straight once more, going through to start another lap, and Michael now having a venture to the outside line. I think those yellow flags have gone in at Paddock Hill Bend, so we're back racing again at that part of the circuit. We're taking manoeuvres permitted once more. A slower car on its way up towards Druids that time, I think was possibly the Andrew Strange car, number 50. board with Stuart Nichols, still unable to find his way up onto the podium, get ahead of his father Mick. The Ware Heating and Bathroom Supplies entered machines. Well, they go side by side. Stuart Nichols dives through on the inside of Surtees. And that's 2 positions that Mick Nichols has lost at that corner. Possibly Jim and Stuart able to demonstrate a bit more commitment through that part of the circuit. So Mick Nichols now goes down to 4th position, having qualified on pole position. Over the line to start another lap goes Jim Davis. It's still Matt Palmer comfortably in the lead of the race. The engineering graduate from Reading. Still Robert Wells in 5th place. And Michael Wells completing the top 6. As they head up towards Druids, the hairpin once again. Down the hill towards Graham Hill Bend as we go on board with John Wilson. He's trying to pass Gary Skip here, who is our slot car racer and race organiser as well. And John Wilson a lot more experienced in these cars, of course, and he's able to drive around the outside of Gary at Paddock Hill Bend and make up at least 1 position. Matt Palmer, though, comfortably ahead in this race. Won both of the races at Donington Park, of course, as we go back to the Rogue Motorsport battle here, and that's between Alex Knight in number 33, who was a winner here in the opening round of last season's championship, and we've got Mark Barber as well. We saw him on the podium in 2013. Tim Herron there, well, he was with them, but he's just made a bit of a mistake through clearways, and that has allowed, I think that's the car of Christian White to get through on the inside, number 28. Yes, it has. And that's up into the top 10. Christian had that moment at Paddock Hill Bend on the first lap, of course, so he'll be pleased to have recovered another position there. Can he get ahead now of the 2 Rogue Motorsport cars that are up at Druids Bend? He's almost with them now already, so that was a good run out of paddock that he had there. Board here with Martin Fowley, who gets a bit crossed up at Druids. In the number 24 car, the 41-year-old IT Service sales manager, based in Fleet in Hampshire, but he's an Irishman. Mick Nichols, Robert Wells and Michael Wells there, and Mick Nichols just about to lap his daughter Maxine in the number 17 car, the 32-year-old who works in the family business as well. She's already been lapped by her brother Stuart, just a little bit further up the road in number 88, who now is up into 2nd position and ahead of Jim Davis. So that's been a change around. Jim trying to fight back though on the way up to Druids, looking to take the outside line there. Switch back on the exit of the corner, no won't, and actually it's not much good to him anyway, because they've got the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend at the bottom of this hill. So Jim tucked in behind Stuart now, who's in 2nd position. Towards Surtees they go. Jim Davis certainly not giving up. In the opening 2 rounds of the championship, he took 2 2nd positions at Donington, so he'd like to at least maintain that record. But Stuart Nichols, who was 3rd in both races at Donington, currently looking to go 1 better here. Over the timing line they'll go to complete another lap. You can see another 2 minutes to go in this race, so we'll get another 2, maybe 3 laps out of this, I should think. A bit more comfortable now for Stuart Nichols. Jim Davis has just dropped back ever so slightly. Matthew Wallace, you can see there in 7th position. Here's the fight for 8th, 9th and 10th. Tim Herron has managed to lash himself back on top onto this battle. He was almost side by side in the background there with Christian White. We're on board with Tim now up at Druids. The gap just ebbing and flowing a little bit. But Tim was able to connect all of the corners together to make a really good lap to attack the black car. Christian White here. So we look at number 3, Lee Atkinson, the man from Ascot. There's Graham Mailings once more, doing battle with David Rowe a little bit further down the order. As towards us comes John Wilson, another man who's having to try and recover lost ground in that number 77 car. We go on board with him, and he's trying to make up another position. It looks like Simon Wallace is a couple of places ahead of us. And Clark Curve onto the straight with this camber on it, familiar camber that it has. leaders, meanwhile, have gone on to their last lap now. We still see the number 80 car of David Asprey ahead of John Wilson there. He'll be able to make up another position or two before the end of this race. Up towards Druids. A little bit later on the break, I think, than David Asprey, but not close enough to make a move at the hairpin. We're about down at Graham Hill Bend. The next opportunity. I think he's too far back. Yes, he is, to make a move there. If he can carry good speed out of the corner, that could be crucial for the next left-hander, which is Surtees. But again, I think he's just too far back. A blip on the brakes there for Asprey up ahead. Not all of the drivers will do that, I don't think. Through the right-hander at Clearways, and John Wilson is able to go through. Here's Matt Palmer then, all capitalising as the number 50 car goes wide to put a lap on Andrew Strange, the 33-year-old from East London. He's a management consultant sharing that car this season with another driver, and off has gone number 29, which is Martin Fahy, the construction and logistics manager from Birmingham, just in front of race leader Matt Palmer. But Palmer, unfazed by that, able to drive around the outside of that stricken car, which is now recovered. He's going to come up to the line. The checkered flag is made ready, and it's 3 out of 3 for Matt Palmer at the beginning of the season in the MR2 Championship. Second across the line is going to be Stuart Nichols. Jim Davis takes third place in the end, and look at that. 4 cars all together really as they came across the line, and it was Robert Wells that took 4th position in the end from Mick Nichols. Let's get confirmation of the results then, and it was 6.19 seconds the gap between Matthew Palmer and Stuart Nichols. Jim Davis phasing a little bit towards the end. Further back, Alex Knight got the better of Mark Bobb in that battle for 8th, and Christian White got the last top 10 position from Tim Heron. So Matt Palmer, a 3rd win in a row in the Millers Oil Toyota MR2 Championship.
Yeah, it's a really good start to the season. I was a bit disappointed with 2nd on there for qualifying, but we had quite a lot of understeer on the car. We managed to get rid of quite a lot of that, and yeah, I think it showed in that race.
Absolutely, but it wasn't the greatest of starts. I think it was something like 4th going through the first corner.
Yeah, I think it was about 4th, but then I think we were all pretty much side by side, so yeah, it was got a bit tight, and yeah, it was a really good start to the race.
And then you were just able to pull away. Do you think that the fact that they were battling helped you a little bit?
Yeah, once I got past Mick going into Druids, I tried to disappear like I did at Donington, and luckily managed to get quite enough of a gap to sort of relax towards the end of the race.
So, Stuart, you upheld on it amongst the roadsters there?
Yeah, it was. We were really battling, and Matt got away from us. But those 4, 5, 6, 7 laps were so fraught. Like, racing your old man, it's meant to be fun. It really wasn't fun because he was dogged out there.
He was, and then Jim proved a tough opponent, as he always does as well.
Jim drives like the widest Mark III out there, and I thought he'd missed a gear coming out of one of the corners, and it allowed me to get past. Turns out he's probably got a gearbox issue, but and then he was up on my back again, and there was no let up whatsoever at all in that whole race. I was willing the last lap board to come out.
Jim Davis, 3rd position, but is there some gearbox issues maybe?
Yeah, as I said previously, yeah, pretty much from a quarter of the way in the race. I got no forward motion on the gear stick, so I was pretty much racing with 2nd and 4th. So I managed it fairly well. I was just hoping that Mick wouldn't get past me, and luckily I kept him at bay. But other than that, the pace looks good.
Time now for the 2nd race of the day in the Millers Oils Toyota MR2 Championship, and the conditions very different to what we had for the first race. It started raining not too long ago, so it'll be difficult for the drivers to get the cars on the right setup, I should think. For this one, it's Stuart Nichols on pole position with Matt Palmer alongside him, Mick Nichols and Jim Davis on row 2 as the lights go out. The best of the starts made from the outside of the front row by Matthew Palmer, this grid being determined by the 2nd fastest times set in qualifying this morning. But Matt Palmer loves the rain, and well, you can see why, because immediately he's gone into the lead of the race. Mick Nichols, that is, well, and that's Michael Wells spinning around as everyone managed to avoid collecting him. Christian White goes to the left. He had his own off at Paddock Hill Bend at the start of the first race. He's avoided an incident at the start of race 2. White started on row 6 of the grid, and there's Michael Wells, who started in 6th position, now pretty much right at the back of the field. Well, this is what happened. We're on board with Robert Wells. You can see Michael Wells going down the inside. The back steps out. Robert Wells has to react quickly. and just about avoids any contact, I think, but he loses a few places as he corrects the car. Field making their way down through Graham Hill Bend, then on board with Chris White here, number 28, who last year was the top rookie in the MR2 Championship, returning for his second season of racing in this Rogue prepared car. Towards the right-hander at Clearways they go, and then towards Clark Curve. You can see, though, the conditions very different. Wipers on and very much needed here. Side by side for second position between Stuart Nichols and Jim Davis, as Matt Palmer already starting to get away as they go on to their second lap. It is Nichols that just about holds on, but it's a good run on the way out of Paddock Hill Bend for Jim Davis, and he's got through into second place there. Can he hold it? Because Stuart Nichols will have the inside line for Druids. They're still side by side. Jim Davis using the outside line, and there might be a bit more grip there in these conditions, and so it proves. So Stuart Nichols loses out there, and Jim Davis goes up to P2. Turning their way now through Graham Hill Bend, treading very carefully. I mean, these conditions mean that the lap times are something like 8 or 9 seconds a lap slower than they were in the dry earlier on, where Matt Palmer just narrowly missed out on breaking his own lap record. 57.35 was his best lap time in the earlier race. Well, we're not going to get down to anything like that in this 13-minute plus 1 lap race. There's Ben Rowe in car number 7, the driver from Devon. He's just ahead of number 89, which is Mick Nichols, who was on pole position for the opening race. Number 72 there is Matthew Wallace. The pack having been split a little bit, of course, by that incident with Michael Wells at the beginning of the opening lap of the race. There's John Wilson as well, number 77. As a change there, that's Matthew Wallace going ahead of Mick Nichols into braking for Paddock Hill Bend, but Mick Nichols trying to come back on the inside line ahead of the man from St Albans, but unable to, well, he has made it work, but Wallace immediately fighting back. Have the outside line for Druids, and that might not be a bad place to be, as we saw from Jim Davis on the previous lap. In these conditions you have to drive different lines, of course, to find where the grip is. If you take the conventional Apex, you'll probably find there's not a lot of grip available. And let's see, down into Graham Hill Bend, they're both being a little bit further away from them, the curb than they might otherwise be, but nevertheless Matthew Wallace gets it out of shape and he spins around one way and then another. The car pointing back in the direction quite quickly, but he'll lose a lot of time and several places because of that. So that's bad news for Matthew Wallace, who started the race in 5th position. You can see John Wilson in the number 77 car. That's the mainly blue car in the background with the white stripe down it. There he is with Tim Heron, number 5, just behind him, and Heron gets a good run off Clark Curve there and is harrying John Wilson, who finished the opening race in 16th position in the end after his various dramas. We're hoping for much better than that in race 2. He's just behind Mick Nichols here. You've got the 3 blue cars together. Then I think the next one through, that is going to be Christian White, I reckon. Then you've got Robert Wells. It'll be interesting to see how Michael Wells can do in terms of climbing back up the order after his off at Paddock Hill Bend on lap 1, on board with White. Robert Wells is up ahead of us. This is the view from Mark Barber's car. Mark, the 30-year-old from Northamptonshire, his second year of racing now. See the corrections that the drivers are having to make on this slippery surface. A bit of a gap up ahead of him that he needs to try and bridge if he's going to make much progress during the course of this race. Well, John Wilson now has gone ahead of Mick Nichols. It's going to be Tim Heron trying to do the same. It's actually Nigel Ralphson, isn't it, in the number 85 car? I think I might have misidentified that as Christian White a moment ago. It is Nigel Ralphson who had that off, tangling with John Wilson in the opening race. Ralphson did continue to finish 21st in race 1. On board here with Robert Wells. There is a gap there somewhere into Paddock Hill Bend. Has he found it? He'll get safely through the corner, it seems to me. Ooh, and onto the grass goes Robert Wells there. Very close forward to the sort of upper midfield part of the circuit. Christian White, he's in there as well now in number 28. So is Sean Trainer, number 27, the driver from Winchester. This is on board with White, and that's Mick Nichols that's gone spinning around on the exit of Druids. He'll just drive straight past him, and that again has just split this pack open a little bit. Robert Wells up ahead, a bit out of shape there as well, I could see. Well, look at the conditions. You can see from our camera lens that they're treacherous, and someone else there has had a spin in the background. That could be the number 80 car of David Asbury, possibly. He's got going again, but again he's lost several places as he gets back underway. Nigel Ralphson now at the head of this group. His second season of racing. He joined the MR2 Championship last year after a layoff in 2012. The previous 2 years he's competed in the Fiats. Punto in 2011. He's got Robert Wells, number 45, just behind him, the driver from Weymouth. Then it's Christian White next up, and look at Wells there. He's out of shape, but he carries on. He's determined to get past Nigel Ralphson here, up at the right-hander at Druids. Matthew Wallace, after his spin, is trying to come back as well. See if he's enjoying these conditions or not. Wallace, as we said, started 5th, but at the moment is just outside the top 10. Mistake for Robert Wells there, and that's allowed White to go through. Wallace, I think, liked the look of that as well. He tried to pounce, but he couldn't make it work. Oh, what a spin up. It's number 50. It's Andrew Strange from London. As the car pointed back in the right direction again. It was towards the back of the field. He was not far behind number 17, Maxine Nichols there. So Matt Palmer, I can tell you, continues to lead this race, but the interest generally is a little bit further back. There's Robert Wells, number 45. Always seems to be embroiled in the thick of a battle. We go on board with him now as the field heads towards Paddock Hill Bend. Wipers going. Everyone ahead of him is safely through. A good run up the hill towards Druids. If so, he's on the outside line. Cut back. Can he get that? I think it's Christian White up ahead of him. Able really to challenge, and again has to correct the car as he comes out of Druids. Just loses a few hundredths of a second there. Sees the brake lights glowing on the car ahead of him. Bit of curb being used there on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. The curb you still find to use. It's beyond that, and you're going to get into a lot of trouble here at Brands Hatch. But Wells does make a move there. He's got ahead of Chris White, and up one place, and Wallace is going to try and capitalise as well, but White moves across to defend. But all of that has allowed Nigel Ralphson to get away a little bit. Now Wallace, well, he knows the tricks. He knows there'll be more grip on the outside line, a bit more experience than Christian White, so will that pay him in good stead and allow him to get ahead of the black car? They're still absolutely side by side as they come up and over the line. They're going to be virtually dead heating as they go across the line that time. Wallace has got his nose ahead, but White has the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend, and I think that's going to count in the end. Yes, it is. So White holds on, and Wallace, well, he covered quite a few more metres, I think, than the 28 car as they completed the last half a lap of that race. And Wells is out of shape up ahead of us. Car points in one direction than the other. White has therefore more momentum as they come out of Druids, but he doesn't have the line for Graham Hill Bend. So despite that error, Robert Wells is able to hold on, but he's lost ground to the car ahead of him once more. Along the straight towards the left-hander. That's Surtees, then it's the right-hander at McLaren, then Clearways and Clark Curve. Wallace again having a go around the outside at Clearways. Not quite as convincing as an attempt this time. Switching to the inside line for a look there. He thought Christian White might have left the door open. Now to the outside line again. The high, wide and handsome line it's going to be into Paddock Hill Bend, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Robert Wells squeezes through on the inside of Nigel Ralphson there and gets the place away. So for 7th place, I think that is. Nigel Ralphson's actually got it back on the run up to Druids, and he's got the inside line as well. A great scrap this. Wallace now trying to get a piece of the action too. It's 4 cars here fighting for the last 4 places in the top 10. Nichols, you can see just behind them, having had that spin earlier on in the race on the exit of Druids. So it's Ralphson, Wells, Wallace, White, then you've got Trainer next up. I think that was Jonathan Grimes we could see as well in the silver roadster number 79. He's been with the MR2 Championship for quite some time, originally racing in a Mark 1. And that's the car of number 23, which is Bill Schwartz. He makes up some ground there. It looks like, though, we've lost the 50 car of Andrew Strange. He had that spin, and now he's retired that car parking it up against the barrier at Graham Hill Bend. Here's Michael Wells on his recovery drive. He's just got past number 69, which is Gary Skip, the red car with the orange roof. So he's now up into the top 20 is Michael Wells, and how many more places can he make up between now and the checkered flag? A bit more ground to make up to the car in front. Bill Schwartz is going to have a go at Gary Skip as well as we look forward again. Robert Wells still trying to find a way past Nigel Ralphson for 7th position. Wallace and White still in there too. There's the 29 car, the multicoloured car, which is that of Martin Fahey. Did some single-seater racing many years ago. It's the ex-Paul Hinson car. 49 is David Rowe. He's about to be lapped by our race leader Matt Palmer, where the headlamps popped up. Not sure how much aerodynamic disadvantage that creates. Certainly not doing Matt Palmer too much harm. He's keen clearly to make sure that the back markers know that he is there. I'm sure David Rowe is well aware of that fact, but Palmer knows that he's well ahead. He doesn't need to take any unnecessary risks to get past the back markers. He can wait until he has them there, until he gets on the straights to pass them absolutely safely. It's a long gap back to Jim Davis in 2nd position. A moment for Bill Schwartz, I'm afraid. Half in the gravel, but he's got out of that again. Palmer then, the champion from last season. He won the title by quite a convincing margin of 45 points in the end over Stuart Nichols, despite a setback at the beginning of the year where he was plagued by unreliability. I think there's just a couple of laps to go in this race for him. Coming towards us is the number 30 car, which is Darren Aldworth. 21 is Phil Hutchins, and there we see the number 80 machine, which is David Asbury, get ahead of Gary Skip. Here's Chris White. Robert Wells is just up ahead of us. Still this fight going on, but I sense that Robert Wells has now lost a position, possibly to Matthew Wallace, as he has, but he gets it back. Wallace makes a mistake there, and Wells now suddenly finds himself at the head of that little group, because Ralphson too is behind. Wallace is at the back of the group. Now Christian White goes through and up into 8th position, so it's Wells now in 7th, White 8th, Ralphson 9th, and Matthew Wallace completing the top 10. John Wilson is just up ahead of them. He's in 6th position, so 10 places better than his earlier race. As Wells gets it sideways again up at Druids, and that's going to give Christian White the opportunity to get alongside, and he's through on the exit of Druids. Christian White goes up into 7th position now. Oh, there's a spinner up ahead, so there'll be yellow flags there, and wants to take a little bit of avoiding action. On board with Stuart Nichols then. Up and over the start and finish line he goes to start the final lap of the race, in actual fact. And oh, what a mistake, he's sideways there. Is he going to keep hold of it? Just about. He runs out over the curb onto the green concrete on the other side of the curb, and that means that Ben Rowe has gone through into 3rd position right at the end of this race. Back markers squirming around just in front of the leader. Someone has spun. Matt Palmer, well, he just needs to keep out of trouble now for the last half a lap, turning his way into Surtees corner for the final time. 4 wins out of 4 at the start of the year would be a remarkable result for the man from Reading. Through Clearways and Clark Curve then, windscreen wipers on. He's lapped quite a significant minority of the field, almost half of it. Up to the line he comes, and the checker flag is made ready, and a very pleased Matt Palmer takes the 4th win of the season in the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. And right at the end we saw Mark Barber, number 22, have a spin into the gravel there, and that was on the final lap, so he a non-finisher from this one. Here are the results then. Palmer winning by more than 7 seconds. It was Jim Davis that took 2nd, and Ben Rowe getting 3rd from Stuart Nichols on the final lap. Further back, Robert Wells eventually got back into 7th position ahead of Christian White. Matt, congratulations on your 4th win in a row. You must be really pleased with how it went.
Yeah, I'm really happy. 4 wins out of 4 is sort of something I was aiming for, but I didn't really expect to achieve. But I knew when it was wet before the start of the race, we had a very good chance of making it 4 out of 4.
And were you able to get the car onto a wet setup or not?
No, we didn't get a chance to put it on a wet setup. We put the pressures a bit high before that race because the clouds were looking a bit ominous, and then we just adjusted them in the assembly area.
So that made it, that little bit more drivable, and you were able to get into the lead straight away and just pull away.
Yeah, I knew it was important to get out in front again and sort of control what I was going to do and take the lines I wanted, because visibility is another thing in the wet, which once you're out front you don't have to worry about.
Very true. Well done, Matt. Okay, Jim, second position. How was it?
Good fun. Fairly easy. It had no drama. I was a bit worried on the first rolling lap because I had Mick next to me who, we weren't pushing and he span. So I think we all had our wits about us from then on. I know there was an accident at the start and I thought, okay, the front runners are going to be left to themselves. Yeah, good. Gremlins reappeared from the first race with the gear linkage, but more manageable in the wet. So yeah, it was all right. Couldn't keep up with Matt though. He's too quick for us.
Okay, Ben, third position. You must be happy with how you've turned your day around, really.
Yes, it's gone from worse to good, so that's the right direction at least. Anyway,
tell us what happened in the first race very briefly.
A little coming together in front of me, which I attempted to take avoiding action on and didn't.
And that race was where? How was it out there? How did you find it?
Exciting, very exciting. Yes, twitchy, damp. Great fun. What we come racing for.
And how did you get past Stuart?
I waited for him to make a mistake, which he obligingly did, and I drove past. Very good of him.
Brilliant.
Well, Matt Palmer has only dropped 1 point so far this season. He has 103, 7 more than Jim Davis, with Stuart Nichols a further 4 points back on 92 in third position. That's all we've got time for from Brands Hatch. Join us again soon for the next round of the championship at Snetterton. Bye-bye for now.